With this video, I hope to give you all a cursory glance into one of the largest environmental cover-ups in EPA history. For 50 years, the Escambia Wood Treatment facility poured chemicals such as arsenic, dioxins, creosotes, pentachlorophenol, and many other substances straight into the earth. For more than 100 years, the Agrico Chemical Company did the same thing. These sites are located next to each other, but what most of you don't know is that they are located right here in Pensacola, Florida. This first footage I'm going to show you was taken 8 years ago at the site of Rosewood Terrace, and it is as interesting as it is illegal. I do not condone any of this behavior, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, how far are you willing to go for the truth?
Go.
This is Chandra Robinson, who contracted sickle cell anemia from this place.
My name is Richard from Malmstrom, and today we're going to be doing a little documentary about this place in Pensacola called Rosewood Terrace. 356 or more families are moved out of here because of toxin levels in the ground. About it. The best they've done is board up these windows and put a couple fences around here. So we're going to go showing you around and see if we can find anything today. And an extension cord.
Papers.
More documents. Found guilty of 2 misdemeanors. Let's take this with us. One's calling out.
Mount Dioxin is what they called from what they dug up here.
Mount Dioxin was the nickname given to a large pile of contaminated soil dug up between 91 and 93 by the EPA.
They dug up a big mound of dirt, twice the size of this whole neighborhood. They labeled it Mount Dioxin. And this here, this is the Dioxin neighborhood.
For Rosewood Terrace, see signs from the EPA: contaminated area, avoid contact with soil and water. And these signs are still up in 2010. Our United States Environmental Protection Agency. Those are probably the only remaining houses from the whole Rosewood Terrace incident, because literally everything else has been knocked down.
Well, let's see if we can try and get back there.
This all used to be homes, and there was more streets back here, interconnected neighborhoods for mainly minorities. This is the only place that back in the 40s they were allowed to actually buy houses. This is the New Hope Missionary Church, where the famous meeting with Margaret Williams took place. There was over 300 residents here to protest the EPA.
Margaret Williams grew up on Pearl Street, and after witnessing several of her family members become sick or die due to exposure, she became the leader of the CATE, the Citizens Against Toxic Exposure, a group dedicated to fighting for the rights of the victims and to helping them find new homes that were equal or better than the ones they had to leave.
If you look between these pipes was where some of the closest houses to Mount Dioxin were located. It's where playgrounds were 50 feet away from excavators, bulldozers, giant shovels that were digging the earth, launching dust into the air, caking sulfur on people's windows and on the playground equipment. It's all just a jungle now, no one cares.
January 3rd, 1996, Mount Dioxin stood here 60 feet tall, 1,000 feet long, and 40 feet wide.
Mount Dioxin was the EPA's solution to removing the contaminants from the ground. It had become the largest land feature in Pensacola, Florida. To give you an idea of the size, the red circle that appears right here shows an entire household. Mount Dioxin contained 255,000 cubic yards of contaminated materials that the EPA then covered with a tarp.
They didn't stop digging because they were out of contaminated soil. They stopped digging because they were out of money.
All this land is actually still contaminated today in 2010. In 1991, when the EPA started digging, they warned no one. They just came here and started with their heavy equipment and their spaceman suits, as they dubbed them, the protective gear that they would wear.
The EPA kept the community so ignorant of the danger that children were often seen sliding down Mount Dioxin.
And this was up all the way up until 1996 before they relocated a single person. So the EPA knew for 14 years that there were poisons in the soil, poisons in the groundwater, that people were dying of cancer, that young women were having to have hysterectomies before the age of 20, stillbirths, miscarriages, respiratory disease, heart failure, liver failure.
In the late 90s, testing was done at Brown Barge Middle School to determine the safety of the soil and the water in the school. They found elevated levels of arsenic, lead, dioxin, and fluoride due to its close proximity to the Escambia Wood Treatment Company, which you see outlined in red along with its affected area. The Agrico Chemical Company, which had operated since 1899, is here in green. And directly in the path of the groundwater plume that was contaminated is Brown Barge Middle School. Contaminated plume extended far east, over a mile past the edge of this map to Bayou Tahar. Parents demanded the school be moved. Growing up in these conditions made it somewhat hard to have Panther pride. They finally relocated Brown Barge in 2007. In 2008, the EPA came up with a new plan to get rid of Mount Dioxin. Using what they called a containment cell, their plan was to rebury it. This entire operation has taken place over the last 2 years, directly across the fence from a daycare center. They released a video on their EPA website saying exactly how this process would be undertaken, but nowhere in the video does it mention the victims or make any reference at all to the neighborhood that they've just finished burying. Maybe they think it's been so long we've forgotten. I'll let an EPA representative describe the process.
The former soil stockpile was located over here, and behind me is Palafox Road. What we have here is an 18-acre containment cell. About 36 feet beneath me is the bottom of the liner. Then we have about a little over 20 feet of contaminated soil. The upper part of the containment cell is filled with contaminated soil mixed with cement to stabilize it. Then we have the top liner. Then on top of that, we have 6 feet of clean soil, which is what I'm standing on now. The county is going to redevelop this site as an industrial park. So this is a very desirable piece of property for redevelopment.